Yeah.
So let me move, if I could, to the DEI piece. And this is your
Sure.
job. You're making money here.
Yeah.
And I found, and I don't know how long you've been in this business, but I remember not as a trainer, but being trained by DEI people back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And it was terrible. I mean, it was horrible. It was things like, okay, so if someone's Asian, understand they may not want coffee, they may want tea. That was the training. Yes, you're laughing. It was terrible. Like, I thought, so our goal is to reinforce stereotypes? Is that our goal? And to make more people like all Asians are the same? Is that our goal?
Yeah.
And that kind of was. Like, that was kind of what they were doing. But I felt like over the past, not recently, but maybe about 15 years after that, it started getting really good. And that's when I was more involved. I was more involved when DEI was really just emotional intelligence training, which is what I do.
Yeah.
I do a lot of emotional intelligence training. It's all about understanding intent, understanding impact, knowing the difference between the two, blah, blah, blah. That's all good. I was happy doing all that. I was actually even training New York City agencies, right? Even the agents I was training city agencies. But all of a sudden I saw how, and it's probably for me, I saw happen around, it hit me around 2018, 2019.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So it's not just, okay, it's you two. Okay. That's what hit me, to where all of a sudden people were like, okay, Larry, so what's your anti-racist training?
Yep. I was going to say exactly the same thing. So I was speaking at so I spoke at basically like every single conference the Society for Human Resources Management does. So like that's like the big HR organization for people who don't know. And so like I was going to like all their annual conferences, all their smaller events, and it was around 2018 that all of a sudden in the SHRM conference floor, half of the vendors there were doing DEI training, and all of the sessions were about DEI. And I was the kind of same as you. Like I do DISC is my primary training tool that I use. Yeah. So that's what I do. Like I do DISC assessments and DISC trainings and stuff like that. And pretty much everything I do is built around that, and also integrating that with like mindfulness practices. And so this DEI stuff came in, and people were asking me about like, what is your type of belonging training? What is your type of inclusion training? And I was like, let's talk about communication. Like the normal things that people talk about, but that wasn't what people wanted anymore. And it was really a very significant shift that happened very quickly. And to be honest, I hadn't actually really looked into it all that much. I was just like, all right, well, diversity, like this was like what was going on in my head. Diversity is a good thing, right? So let them do their diversity training. I'm still going to do my thing, and maybe there'll be chances for alignment and stuff like that. Well, no, I didn't realize at that point that most diversity training was absolute garbage. That was based in like pseudoscience at best. And it's actually one of the first things I started researching on my YouTube channel, was like looking into like the characteristics of the white supremacist organization and like what all that stuff meant, and explaining to people like, this is not actually real. This is not how they're making this up. But no, all that stuff is garbage. It's not to say that.
What I thought bothered me though is, just in my personal view, I actually stopped doing it. Like I was like, I'm done.
Oh yeah.
Because it literally was the opposite. And you'll get this, the audience may not get this, but one of the concepts of emotional intelligence, there are many of them, but one of them in communication is differentiating intent from impact.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the pieces to differentiate the two, right? Impact and intent can be completely different on both sides, right? Someone can have terrible intent and have no impact, good intent and horrible impact. I mean, it all depends on what someone's looking at, right? But now anti-racist training says they are exactly the same amount of what? In fact, intent is irrelevant. Intent is irrelevant. It's against it. Actually, now at least the data is coming out now that modern DEI is absolutely hurtful and harmful. They're figuring it out now. I was telling them that 7 years ago. But now they're actually coming out going, this is hurtful. And I'm like, I know. And by the way, I'm getting work again. So that's a positive thing.
Oh, I've noticed the same thing too, because I still do like DISC assessments, and every once in a while I'll do a training like on the download that I don't talk about publicly. And like some people have been like slowly worming their way back into my email. I'm like, I recognize you from 2018. But like one of the things that I noticed was that if you look at so there's this PDF literally called Characteristics of a White Supremacist Organization that was influencing a lot of this DEI training. And if you look at the characteristics that they believe are white supremacy, on the DISC model, they all align with the most dominant style in the DISC model. So they're all things that the boss has to do. And if you don't have someone doing those things, then you don't have a functional organization, right? So it's like, even looking back at that, and I talk a lot about this on my channel, especially with the socialism content that I do, the biggest enemy of the woke left is not, it's not white people. It's capitalism. That's what they go after all the time. And so it's actually interesting for me to think about, like, they're pushing this stuff into organizations to attack the boss of organizations, who they believe is the bourgeois, right? Their biggest thing is eliminating private property, eliminating that bourgeois boss level. And so they're pushing things into organizations that are going to lead to the downfall of the organization. And this is why, as we're seeing now, this training doesn't work, because you need people at the top of organizations dictating a vision and helping people, inspire people towards that vision. That's a very functional need that any organization has. You can't exist without it.
Right. I agree. I agree completely.